Senegal was about Chris and I participating in Gap 7. And Gap 7 is, well, Gap 7 Dakar, Senegal was a residency set up through Gap Global Art Project. And Global Art Project is ran by Carl Hayward out of the Bay Area. And what we do is it's about 30 active members from 16 or more different countries. And we send fragments to each other through the mail. And we either make collaborative work or we make solo work with it. And then we meet up in these residencies and we exhibit work. And then we again have workshops within the community and within ourselves. And we create both solo and collaborative work together. Senegal was one of many. We've been to Italy, we've been to Mexico, we've been to Belgium, and we've been to Dakar, Senegal. And actually, we weren't actually in Dakar. We were actually in a little town a little bit outside of Dakar called Toubab Jallo. And it was a coastal town. It was an artist community at Sobo Bade. And this artist community was right on the shore, and it houses many different local artisans, musicians, film stars, etc. They all come through and they work and they find solace in the space and in the environment, just to, take a break, get a different viewpoint on life. So that's the background on basically where Chris and I were going to Dakar, Senegal, and where that's connected with GAP, the Global Art Project.
Ooh. Okay, looks like Chris coming. Hi, Chris.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey, sorry, just Zoom and just didn't work on my laptop, so I'm here from my cell phone, but that's cool too. So, but I am. Hey, Greg.
Hey, how you doing, Chris? I was just giving him a background on Gap 7 in Dakar, Senegal.
Okay. Yeah, it was just, it was kind of a once in a lifetime experience for me because, I never really left this hemisphere before. So having the opportunity to be able to, cross the ocean into, land that, you've always heard about, but it's definitely something you have to, actually go there and be there, especially since, my ancestral culture is there. And a lot of people who are, of African heritage, who, are part of the diaspora, don't always get to go back there. So this is really really was a great, chance and opportunity to go there and experience, that land and that atmosphere and that vibe. And being able to do that, with a bunch of other artists, just enhanced the journey for me. Going there with Greg and meeting the other artists from other parts of the world and other parts of the country, that really, really made the experience that much more special. I guess since I came in a little late, you probably talked a little bit about GAP, I assume, too, the GAP Collective.
Yep, I talked about GAP Collective. I talked about the other residencies, and I talked a little bit how GAP works.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I had joined GAP probably about a little less than a year before the trip, actually, a year before the trip. And, I had been in contact with Greg about it, via Facebook, because it's a Facebook-based collective. So, I saw all the trips that people had gone on and all the artwork that they had done and the, exchanging of materials and stuff like that. And I thought that that was pretty cool. So I joined up, and they had mentioned that they were going to try to go to Senegal. And I was like, wow, that would be an awesome experience for me personally and artistically. So, but of course I didn't have any money to do that. So I applied for a grant through the Metropolitan Regional Arts Council, MRAC, and I was fortunate enough to receive a grant to go over there. So I used that money to, fund my trip, and also fund some classes to create some metal artwork as well, because that was one of the opportunities that I saw that I could teach myself something new, not just go somewhere, but also teach myself something new, and kind of, meld both of those experiences together. So, I, just basically after that, just, got with the collective and, made the trip happen. We went over there. And so I was over there for about a week and a half. I think Greg was there for pretty much 2 weeks, I think.
Yeah, I was there for 2 weeks.
But the whole residency was like for about a month. So people were there for about a month or so. So yeah. So if you guys want to start, you want to start with the slideshow? Do you have anything else to add, Greg?
No, you covered it, man.
Okay. All right.
You covered it.
Share the screen. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, this is the excellent Senegalese adventure of Chris and Greg's. Kind of excellent adventure. So let's just get it started.
This is Chris and I working together, making collaborative and solo work.
And so that was actually, on screen. And those two names, those are the names that were given to us by one of the residents while we were there. So that's a ceremonial thing that they do, once they get to know you, and you're somebody of the culture, they give you your African names. Okay, you can go to the next slide. And these are some samples of our work. My stuff is on the left. It's eruptions. That's a painting that I really haven't shown very much, but it's kind of a signature of my work. Very abstract, biomorphic shapes. This piece for me represents an eruption of whatever, I don't know, cosmic slop, I don't know. But it just, that's some of the direction that my practice has been going for the past few years.
And my work is birthday cake, and it's, strong color, bold line, a lot of abstraction, a lot of layers, and fragmentation. And as Chris was talking about, we were adopted by the Baifal, and the Baifal is a Muslim sect. It's a group that wears their hair like Rastafarians, yet their clothing is patchworked, colorful, and layered, just kind of similar to the way that I work. So, that's the connection between the two.
Right. And Greg and my work, are similar in the ways that we kind of bring little shapes and pieces together in a colorful way. And, as we go through the presentation, you can kind of, see where, those kind of ideas and ways of using shapes and color and form are kind of inspired, as either that's subconsciously or consciously, by African art. Okay, you can go to the next slide. Okay, Well, how and why did we go to Senegal? I think we kind of explained that a little bit in the first part, but like I said, for me, it was just an opportunity to, you know, kind of make that cycle, connect that cycle. For a lot of people I know who are of European descent or Asian descent, or, you know, they have a little more direct connection to their heritage and their, you know, their families, their descendants, you know, where they came from is a lot more emphasized through their life, and they can, you know, have knowledge of those direct contacts. But, you know, as an African American, our heritage was kind of disconnected from us because of slavery. So to have the chance to go back, even though I don't know exactly, where my roots are from in Africa, I know where it is. I know exactly where it is. So to have that opportunity to go back there, and put my feet on the soil of, where my ancestors were at one point is a really heartening experience.
Yeah, and I would say, who would have known, with the fact that we are living in a pandemic, that the last trip that, Chris and I have made, or at least I have made, was back to Africa. And that's something very special. That's something I'm going to hold dear for the rest of my life. The Senegalese people were very welcoming, very treated us like family, treated us like brothers and sisters. We ate out of the same bowls. We drank from the same cups. A very eye-opening experience. And I would have to say, considering the George Floyd situation, I would say staying in Senegal, I never felt so safe. I felt very safe there. It felt very much as home.
Right. Yeah. And people, even though pretty much I really didn't have very much experience with, people other Europeans or other cultures other than in the art resort that we were. But even those people had respect for us, even though we couldn't speak their language, some of them or whatever, everybody was, filled with welcome and joy. And that was really, really refreshing. And even the people, when we went out to the outer villages, everybody would just, say hi or be open or whatever, where you're from. And that was really great to see. It really gave you hope for humanity, that's kind of what I would say. Gonna go to the next slide. Okay, and this is some of the promotional pieces from the actual art project, the Gap Senegal trip. Yeah, and it and that was promoted, through our Facebook, social media, and also there at the resort.
And the important thing is, we also, as it says, we had exhibitions, public workshops, and then solo and collaborative work that came together. And that's a staple in GAP residencies. And like I said, residencies include Italy, Belgium, Mexico, Dakar, Senegal. So GAP has traveled around and continues to do this, and hopefully will be here in Minneapolis soon.
Right. And, as Greg probably said earlier, we stay connected by sending each other, pieces and parts that people have found, and then we mail those to each other, and then use them in each other's work, and then you have exhibits with those artworks where the artists are, or other places around this country and around the world. And then we also, network as well, and people give each other advice and ideas and tips. So it's a really good thing. Okay, next slide. Okay. Oh, were you okay? There you go. Okay, where's Senegal? Senegal is in the southwest part of Africa. I guess the upper upper southeast, or north. I guess that's northeast, right? On the coast. Yeah, northwest part of Africa, and it was one of the hubs for the transatlantic slave trade. So actually, the majority of the countries on that side of Africa were part of the slave trade, or kind of, processing plants of the slave trade.
Yeah. And later we'll talk about our trip to Goree Island, which is a place where they would take mass amounts of slaves and disperse them to different locales. And Chris and I were able to experience this very dark place, but at the same time very much connected to our history. As Chris mentioned, we don't really have a direct line that says we're from this village, from this country of Africa. So to find where we could have, our ancestors could have been and could have been dispersed, was very significant and was life-changing.
Okay. Okay, you can go next slide. Okay, yeah. The flight was about between 10 and 15 hours. I think, Greg, you went like straight through, I think, didn't you?
Yeah, I went straight through. Yep.
I had a couple of stops. I had the first stop in New Jersey, and then I went from New Jersey to Portugal, and from Portugal, and then to Senegal. So, but yeah, it was a pretty interesting trip. It was a little rough, because most of the time I flew at night. So, yeah, the plane would be going up and down, and it was rough, and it was just kind of very unsettling. A woman was screaming on the plane, and I'm like, oh my God, man, this is not helping my nerves. But yeah, so, but when I had actually met a gentleman who was from Germany, and he, we were talking, and he had mentioned that just imagine if you were on a ship and you didn't know where you were going, and you were under deck in the dark with a bunch of people that you don't know, and you're riding on this rough ocean that you don't know where the hell you're going. So that kind of stuck with me in my mind. I was fortunate to be born when I was, and with all this technology and stuff, and just trying to imagine how that was for those people to be transported, thousands of miles across the ocean, in those rough seas. You really had to be a strong soul to be able to do that, and to come out, because a lot of slaves, killed themselves. They jumped off the ships because they would rather die than be taken away from their homes, So, for my ancestors to be able to make it over really says something about, the strength of the human spirit, So, yeah.
Yeah, and his image is directly the time that I saw Africa when the plane actually came across the land. So again, just going back and echoing, just having that time to reflect, and that moment of seeing what we would call the motherland, where we originated from, was very breathtaking.
Right. Okay, next slide. Speak a little bit about this, Greg?
Yeah, this is Leguman. This is where we stayed. This was an additional complex to Sobo Bade. This was a little bit more in the interior off of the coast, so it wasn't surrounded by water. It had a pool, and it had little bungalows all over the complex. It had a theater. and it was a place for contemplation and a place for us to make work. We just stayed there mostly and worked mostly at Sobo Bade, but this is a nice place to stay. They were, again, very welcoming, would accommodate us every step of the way. Beautiful in the morning, beautiful in the evening. And in the evening, what was interesting is there's no lights. So you just hear the sounds that are around you, and your mind kind of takes you away. And it's really interesting. It was a really beautiful experience.
Yeah, yeah. There, you know, you can hear all of the animals, you know, making all their sounds at night. There's a lot of fencing around, you know, the places where humans are, so you really don't see, like, you know, leopards or anything running up on you or anything, because everything's really kind of, you know, fenced in. But you could hear a lot of, you know, of the wildlife that were there, which was pretty cool. And actually, I had because I had a roommate other than Greg that was routing around in the ceiling of my bed every night. So I don't know what it was, but it would just kind of chew on the straw ceiling every night and burrow around. And so, you know, we had like mosquito netting on, you know, to avoid the, you know, mosquito bites from malaria. But yeah, so that kind of, you know, made for rough sleeping. I, you know, eventually got over it, you know, and just got used to it. But yeah, it was an interesting night. Also, there was a local dog that would always come up and sleep right outside our door. And, you know, it would howl when it would hear, you know, other, I don't know if they were probably not dingoes, but hyenas or something. It would howl along with them. So it was kind of interesting, because I guess this dog really kind of protected, you know, us from other animals that might sneak in. So it was kind of that dog's instinct to come up there and kind of protect us. So that was kind of cool.
Right on.
Next slide.
So this is more complexes at Leguman, and the paintings on the interior were done by a local artist named Maduba. And Maduba was also, I would say, he was one of our guides and one of our keepers. He made sure we wanted for nothing, and if we wanted anything, or if we needed anything, he made sure he was accommodating. He made sure we went for art supplies. He took us to the local market. He took us to exchange money. He was a translator between us. The locals talked in Wolof. And it was you can't really take there's no app that you can put on your phone to learn Wolof. You have to kind of just be in the moment and be in the Senegalese people to learn it. And he was our translator a lot of the times. But this is his work here on the inside.
Right. Yeah, and also another piece of artwork later in the presentation, but he was kind of like one of the resident artists there at Sobo Bade, so he pretty much lived there, you know, for free, and kind of did his artwork and sold his artwork and managed the gallery there. So it was a pretty sweet setup.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, yeah, it's a pretty sweet setup for him. So yeah. The next slide. That's Greg.
Yeah. This is one of the local, and is at Leguman, and Leguman had all these little chalets, I would say, you know, places you can sit and meditate or stay or take a nap, or it was a huge compound. So this is just one of many that, you know, I'm standing outside of.
Right. Yeah, and actually, you know, they had like this little swimming pool. The water was kind of green, so I didn't swim, but it was really a nice kind of little lodge resort kind of place. And yeah, everybody was like, and there wasn't really any access to like TVs or anything. We really couldn't pick up the internet or anything. So we were really unplugged pretty much for the most part. So it really just became, you know, an experience of just, you know, absorbing in, you know, the land and the atmosphere, you know. So that was kind of different and actually kind of cool. So yeah. You can go to the next slide. Yeah, put this in there just to give you a kind of an idea of what the locale looked like. The tree on the left is a baobab tree, which is, you know, a really large tree that's, you know, pretty, I guess, I'm trying to think of the word. It's a local tree, but basically it's a local tree. So, and it's seen as a spiritual tree. People believe that spirits live inside the trees, and that and some are so large that people live inside of the trees. So I want to take a picture of them because it's a really just aesthetically cool looking plant. But I guess centuries ago, you know, people worshiped those trees because, you know, of the fruit that they gave, and you know, they kind of really represented the spiritual nature of the people. You know, strong wood,
The oil.
yeah, strong, hard, dark wood. So yeah, the piece on the right is one of the mansions that were kind of dotted around the cities and areas. And we were told that Europeans came in and, you know, built all of these mansions and huge houses for very, very cheap because, you know, land there and materials there, you know, are cheap. So they build them real big, but they build them so big that they run out of money. So a lot of these, you know, really huge, you know, mansions are abandoned, you know, for a while because people get them started, but they never finish them because, you know, they run out of money or they run out of time. So there's a lot of really big, beautiful, you know, mansions right next to the ocean, and they're really cool looking, but a lot of them people don't even really live in. So it's kind of interesting. But I don't know, Greg, if you remember how much they said that some of these places were, but they were actually about the price of maybe one of the Mick mansions here. So maybe they were like, you know, $400,000 or $500,000 for these, you know, huge mansion-like homes.
Yeah, I think there were a couple million safa, which is, I forget what that is in our respects, but it's not a lot of money for us. And I would say that would be what you would see. There was a huge difference. There is the folks that we had a lot of contact with, which were very much of the earth, very much artisans, very much spiritual people. And then you had the divide of the folks who were, I guess, moving in on the land. And to Bob Jalot, I believe, translated to too many whites, I believe.
Right.
Something to that effect. So it's ingrained in their culture, this tension between, you know, those who are from there and those who end up, you know, moving in and kind of building off of the land and such.
Right. Okay, you can go to the next slide. This is the entrance of Sobo Bade Art Resort. Yeah, it was for the most part conceived and developed by one man. And a lot of the art and the look of the complex he kind of did himself. I mean, he obviously worked with people, but really a amazing creative mind. I mean, when we were there, I think we saw him for a real short minute of time, but he's like a very old man. I think he's like in his 80s or 90s or something. But he pretty much built this whole, art enclave himself. And it's a really beautiful place to go and just, even just look at, more so than just even stay there. There's a lot of really cool things to experience.
Yeah, it's magical because it's right on the edge of the ocean, so the waves smash it, and you can see on the edge of it there's buildings that are deteriorating just because of, being, close to the ocean, and the salt water just kind of wearing down on the material. But Sobo Bade itself is just integrated into the mountainside there, and there's the shells. These shells are everywhere that he used to kind of, kind of put the icing on the cake and, decorate the whole area. So the whole complex is not only vast, but I would say it's very homey and it's very earthy, very down to earth, and very eclectic, I would say.
Right. Yeah, you really get the African aesthetic from there too. The artists working there, and the materials that they use. You really pick up that sense of Afrocentric there, which is really cool too. The next slide. Yeah, this scene just kind of gives you a little look at some of the buildings there. The picture on the right, or the picture on the left, is the main square, and the picture on the left is, I think that might have been the building where we checked in at, or something like that, I think. But yeah, just looking at the mosaic work is really cool. To see how they utilize, the patterns and the materials is really cool.
And the entrance of Sobo Bade served as a marketplace. There is a lot of artisans and a lot of, community and local folk who sold, earrings, bracelets, sculptures, paintings, jewelry, sandals, you name it, they had it. But that's what the entrance was a marketplace before you entered into the artist compound.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah, you can go to the next one. And here's some of the craftspeople and vendors. They make their own stuff, and sell their own stuff. That's their living. Just like artists here. But they sell their stuff directly to the visitors. The picture on the left, this gentleman, I think he was like 70 or 80 years old, and he was a sculptor, and it was just amazing to watch the piece kind of grow out of the rock that he was making. And and he was there every day just chipping on it, and he had a few pieces around there. I think that's the only piece that we have shot, but he had a bunch of these like really just huge, beautiful, rock sculptures there. The picture on the right were some of the women who had some of their artistic wares, whether they were clothes or jewelry or textiles, things like that, and then, they're pretty much there, every day. And, oh, hey, I saw you yesterday. Come on over. You want to buy this? Hey, handsome, you want to see this? Blah, 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 whatever. And so yeah, it was pretty fun. It's pretty cool.
We became family.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, you can go to the next slide.
That's some more Maduba's work, right?
Right. Yeah, the piece on the right is Maduba's artwork. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, it looks cool, digitally, but to see it in person, it's really sweet. And the piece on the left is, I think that was a part of one of the walls in there. and you can see how they use shells and some of the rock textures or wood. I'm not quite sure if that was wood or rocks, but yeah, you can see how they kind of use these different materials to really make beautiful, intricate designs. So that's pretty cool. You can go to the next slide.
And this was one of the African masks inside Leguman's, one of their little huts. And I just found it very breathtaking. Found it very mysterious. I've never seen a mask like this. And they have masks everywhere, in some of the shops all over this compound. And so I don't know the stories behind all of them or the origins of all of them, but they're very much a part of the decor and very much would kind of shadow over top of you and just kind of watch over you. And they're placed everywhere, and he's all over the compound in these special locales. It was very interesting how they had the place decorated.
Okay, next slide. Yeah, and this is just some scenes from the kind of edge of the resort that Greg was talking about earlier. And these are just total drop-offs, but they're basically like porches that just lead out to the ocean. And and we would go up there, and sit and have a beer or something, just hang out and just talk and just really just soak in the atmosphere. But yeah, it's really beautiful, and you can just hear and feel the strength of the waves on the coast, and it's really just kind of takes you to a different place. It's definitely not like Lake Calhoun or Lake of the Isles, to tell you that.
No, on special days you'll be able to see what the young kids in the village will do is they collect all the huge plastic bottles and they wrap it up in a net and they shape it like a boat, and they push out on their knees over the waves out into the water, and they go swimming and they go fishing. And just to watch these young kids fight the ocean and these makeshift little boats was amazing. It was really a great experience watching the sun go down and then watching them play on the water.
Right. Yeah, and just just being able to just imagine that this area has been like this for thousands and thousands of years. It probably pretty much looked like this in early AD, or BC. Just this kind of, very beautiful, peaceful, area. And it never rained while we were there. We were there during the dry season in December and January. So it never rained. It was just, every day it was just beautiful and sunny. Also, the area on the left side, we were told that certain times during the year in the spring, the water changes and people come down there and bathe in the water for medicinal purposes. So it's only like one time during the year in the early spring, and people swear that, that their arthritis is healed and that different, ailments they have are healed, but it's only like a certain period of time. But like thousands of people come and they get in that section of the water to, be healed of their ailments.
Yeah, it's a really mystical place. And what was really nice is we would sit here and the sun would go down and you would see the young kids come out on the ocean, but you also hear the call to prayer. And every day we would hear the call to prayer as many times as the call to prayer is, advertised. Yeah, they would, I would think, once in the morning and once in the afternoon. But yeah, it was really, really magical.
Right. Yeah. And wherever you are, you would hear it, wherever you are. So it was pretty cool. Okay, next slide. Okay.
Yeah.
That's the boy, Ahmad. Yeah, I really wasn't sure. How did you meet him, Greg? I wasn't sure. How did you meet him?
Well, Ahmad is short for Muhammad. And Muhammad, I met him, I was just walking through the village one day by myself. And what was interesting is you're surrounded by Black people. And, you kind of realize that you're the dominant group for once. And so
Hmm.
all the layers of tension kind of start to come off, but you still stick out and you're still American.
Right.
And Muhammad just knew, and he just befriended me right away and offered to take me. That's the image on the left. That's him taking me through the village. He took me through the whole entire village from one end to the other one day and showed me where all the kids surf and where people, do their marketplace, where the leader, where the village leader is. And so he kind of adopted me, and he adopted Chris. He's the one who managed to give us our Muslim names of Falu and Bada. He always made sure that we had whatever we wanted. We just, wanted for nothing. If we needed to exchange money, he knew where to exchange money. If we needed water, he made sure we had water. Um, just a very heartfelt young man, and he still calls and checks in every once in a while when he can. Best guy that I ever had, I can say.
Right. Right. Yeah, and he's real. Yeah, and he's real honest, and you know, real down to earth, and you could probably say, oh, he's kind of somewhat like our tour guide, but I think it was more than that. He just, just wanted to kind of, help us, really know about the country, and he was proud of that.
Yes.
So that was really, really cool. So we were really fortunate in meeting him. So yeah. Okay, next slide. This is a little video here. I guess Gia, you can probably turn that on. It's a little slow, but this is one of the beaches. I don't remember what it was called, but it was one of the beaches that Muhammad or Ahmad took us to. And it was just a beautiful beach. It was all filled with shells. You go pick up shells. It was kind of a resort beach, but it was really, really a beautiful, beautiful place. It was just, yeah, it was just very, really light sands, and you could just see for miles from there, and it was really, really cool. Be a beautiful place.
Yeah. Muhammad would take us on these adventures, and this was one of the adventures to this beach, kind of up towards a touristy town and things of that nature. But he always, again, would look out for us, made sure we enjoyed our day, made sure we saw, places in Senegal that, most tourists do or don't do. But again, he made sure he took care of us.
Right. Yeah. Make sure he didn't get scammed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because people will scam you. Even though whether you're American, even you're black or whatever, people will scam you, especially on the money. So he made sure that we didn't get scammed, and that was good. Okay. Next slide. Yeah, this was one of the little adventures that Greg was talking about, that we went to one of the outer villages from the resort. And I put this in there just so you could get a feel of, what the streets look like. They were just, mostly just open air spaces that, sold everything and anything. So because we had a little adventure trying to find some art materials.
Yeah, this is when Maduba took us to look for art materials. Yep. It was an interesting day going through all the markets and trying to find just, paint, cups, brushes, you know, just standard art materials, but you had to go through all these little markets and you had to negotiate. Everything's a negotiation. Every price is negotiable. So it didn't matter what it was, you had to negotiate. And again, you know, Maduba knew enough Wolof to kind of keep us out of trouble and make sure that the business stayed straight as well. So again, hats off to Maduba for, you know, looking out for us.
Right, right. There's also interesting just to see how people just live, you know, how it happens. And it's pretty much the same as us. It is the same as us, you know. So it's not really much difference. But, you know, they probably live more of an outer life than we do. So being, out around people more than we do, because for me, I think our society's so, tech driven and tech savvy and whatnot, they're not that much there, people just, speak to you, say hi to you, go about your business, go about your day. So, yeah, so that was pretty cool to see. Okay, next slide. Okay, this is Greg, Carl, and myself. Carl is the main guru of the Gap Collective. And, we took our cues from him at Sobo Bade, doing work and doing events and things like that. So it was really cool to actually meet him. Obviously, Greg's met him a few times, but this was my first time, and it was cool to, get to know him and all of the Gap folks. So that was really cool.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that's, Carl's the main guy, boss man. But he kind of leads us and makes sure that the community stays tight and that, the T's are crossed, the I's are dotted, everybody's accommodated and things go off without a hitch. There's a lot of moving parts. We got exhibitions, we got people flying in and flying out, staying different days and different times, different needs, different wants. And for him to be able to pull this off in all these different locales is really amazing. And to pull it off in Senegal is really great.
Yep. Okay, yeah. Well, you can go to the next slide there. Yeah, and this is the Compagnie Pulsar dance troupe. They're also members of GAP as well, but they are a dance troupe from France, and we got to know them, and that was pretty cool. And they do some beautiful performances and dances and stuff, run by Masha, who's kind of like the main choreographer and founder of the group. Yeah, we can go to the next slide. This is a little video. We did some actual dance exercises there. It kind of loosened us up a little bit, but yeah, there's you can see Greg there doing his thing.
Yeah, Masha does this everywhere. Every chance she gets, every residency I've been at that Masha's been at, she's done these, community-based dance, recitals and workshops, and they're very how can I put it? Very interesting. They force you to open up and kind of step away from the status quo and kind of get you to step out of your box and do something a little bit more vulnerable.
Right. And it's, obviously dance is an art and it's another form of expression. So it's good to kind of, play around with that as well. And, just, stretch and dance and express yourself through movement. So that was pretty fun. And also to watch them rehearse too. That was pretty fun to, watch them, block out their performances and eventually, see the final product. So that was pretty cool.
Mm.
Okay, you can go to the next slide. Now, this was one of the performances. Unfortunately, there's no sound, but this was one of the performances the week of Christmas. During that week at Sobo Bade, they had performances go on every night. So there's something happening every night, whether it was dance or drumming or, you know, music or something happened every night. So, and, you know, they wore costumes, you know, traditional costumes, and did all kind of performances, whether it was adults, kids, and, you know, all the people from, you know, the surrounding villages would come in and you know, watch the performances and stuff. And that was pretty fun to experience. Yeah, if you want to run that one more time, G, I don't know, it went up. If you want to run that one more time.
Yeah, that week was profound with the performances and the different groups, and they were so welcoming that they made sure that they included Gap as well in their coverage. They would interview Carl or pull us aside and bring us in on performances where we didn't have to pay, but we were able to see and experience all these different moments during the week as well for free.
Right. Okay, we can go to the next slide. And this was one of the gallery signs there, kind of announcing our show and events. And so, yeah, I just wanted to show that. This is kind of a promo for Gap too. So, so yeah, you can go to the next slide. And obviously there's Greg working and myself working.
And
So,
yeah, the work, you know, we just so everyone knows, you know, the work is at your own pace. You know, you're working pretty much every day, but you know, it's in different parts of the day. You know, sometimes you work in the morning, some in the afternoon, maybe you work in the evening, sometimes you work together, sometimes you work by yourself. So it's a nice open ebb and flow. There's no strict schedule, other than making sure we support each other. We try to make sure we show up to the openings, and we try to make sure we show up to each other's workshops and make sure each other has support, and so that we expose ourselves to many disciplines as possible. You know, dance, there's some people who are doing installation, some folks who are more 2D. We have a Kiko who does textiles, and there's more with fabrics and things of that nature. So, you know, there's a lot of different, you know, elements going on again within the group.
right. Yeah, we always make time to go down to the beach too, and get in the water, or you know, walk up and down the coastline. You know, because that's part of the, you know, creative experience too. Is just, you know, becoming part of your environment. You know, meeting new people. You know, hearing different stories. All those things are also, you know, part of the creative engine. So that was a key part, as well as just, you know, making things. So next slide. Okay, here's some of the artwork that I created, you know, while I was there. Yeah, these pieces were, for me, I just called them portals. So they're kind of based on the idea of, you know, going through a portal. You know, for me, it was kind of just going back to Africa, you know, the ancestral home. So, you know, going back through that portal, going back to that space. So I made these, I guess, mixed media paper-based pieces using materials from, you know, my own collection and other artists, because we all, you know, used each other's, you know, found pieces of paper or material or whatever and put them together to make something new. Next slide.
So this is some work that I made during the residency. On the left side, you have a collaborative piece. I believe that's me and Carl. And what's nice about the collaborative pieces is making a few marks and passing it on to another, artist, and going with the mantra of, Gap has this mantra of no mind, this subconscious way of working, things just starting off with a mark or a space of color or, a movement. And then the one on the right side is more of a solo piece. And the brown I got using some of the coffee from the local area. So it was just fun to utilize materials from the local fair as well as things that you bring in.
Right. And, after I left, I really, thought about and, researched our time, and, the whole idea of, sharing is a very African sensibility. I actually saw that, in the way that people, were to us, the idea of sharing, what you have to make something whole. That's a very African sensibility. So we really, and even, in the works we created, it was a very African sensibility of sharing and repurposing. And if you look at the history of art, that's kind of, something we, really see through a lot of different movements. And has always been kind of, a connecting point of, how people, bring things together to make something greater. So I thought that was kind of an interesting thought. So, yeah. And it's Gap's philosophy too. So, next slide. This is our space. There's me looking like Frankenstein coming in. But yeah, that was our space.
Yeah, I think this was my workshop there, Chris.
Right.
Yeah, we had the gallery filled, and this is really, the nature of Gap. This community-based, sharing-based, ideas going on within the collective, and seeing how many folks came in and how many folks participated was really nice. Participation is a very key part. Without participation, we don't really get the access to the local fair. We don't really, expand our minds. So participation is key. And, we had, high participation in Senegal.
Yeah, and it's great to, just to, as I said earlier in the presentation, just to, meet people and see how they think and allow to, share what we have with them and them to share what they have with us. So that was very inspiring for me. One of the inspiring aspects of the trip, so very, very good. Next slide. Yeah, these are some of the, on the left, some of the people who, stopped by, and they have some origami boats that they made. And that's pretty cool to see. Mar Danes was one of the people to have a workshop there. She created that. And on the right, Masha, the choreographer for the dance troupe, she's wearing a mask that was created by Margot Hartford in one of her workshops. So, yeah, I just thought these were pretty cool pictures to put in there. They're really, really cool. So, and they really kind of give you a sense of, what Gap does when they, do these residencies.
And it shows the diversity of Gap too. Like you said, we have dance troupes, we have folks who do installation, photography, 2D, fiber arts, all these, different elements, make Gap as strong as it is. We have spoken word, music. So all these layers, is why I love the complex, is why I love Gap, is part of that complexity.
Right. Right. Next slide. This is the exhibit. We have, I'm not quite sure how many actual artists are part of GAP right now, and not all artists get to participate, but you know, this is just kind of a small sampling of some of the works that you know, people bring with them, and some of them are ones they create, you know, on site. So you know, that way, you know, people can get an idea or a scope of, you know, different kind of creative sensibilities and aesthetics there.
And Chris, I think it's about 30 or more active members from 16 different countries, I believe.
Okay. Okay, cool. Okay, next slide. This is a little video that kind of gives you just a little view of the one of the installations there. So yeah, it's very, very cool. Very nice stuff. I think that piece was made there, I think. Is that right, Greg? Did you make that piece there? I'm not quite sure.
I made the one on the wall, but
okay.
the installation piece that's hanging, I'm not sure who made that piece.
Okay.
I think that might be a Kiko.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Kiko. Yeah. Okay, thanks, Carl. Yep. Okay. We're gonna move on. I think we're probably getting short on time, so we're gonna kind of move just through everything. This is a shot of Goree Island, which is off the coast of Dakar. And this, as we said earlier in the presentation, was one of the transportation hubs for the African slave trade. So we actually, you know, took the boat and went to the island. Yeah. Next slide. This is one of the gun ports that was on the island, and this is how they, you know, protected people from, you know, attacking the enclave, and also to, you know, keep the slaves in. So it had two purposes: to keep people out and to keep people in. So, next slide. This is a scene or a shot from the gates that were on the beach. You know, once again, you know, to keep the slaves from escaping. Next slide. This is the House of Slaves, where they actually did the documentation when they brought the slaves, you know, from their villages in chains, and they had to document them and sell them. So this was the place where they, you know, kind of signed them in and sold them off, and you know, they went on their way. Next slide. This is one of the cells that I'm not quite sure how many people they had in one of these cells, but I'm sure it was a whole lot. And when you went in there, it's really surprising how small they are. They're really, really small. But yeah, and they just kind of really just shoved a bunch of people in there, locked them up. And, you know, they just kind of sat in there, you know, with little windows, no light, you know, and just, you know, waited for their time. Next slide. Yeah, this just shows you the bars of one of the cell rooms there.
Yeah, like Chris said, this place was a fortress. You know, it was about holding folks in. It was about maintaining that capitalistic, you know, mentality. This was about money and securing one's interests and investment, and it was very much there. You felt it when you went to this place. You could feel the ancestors there. You could feel it in the small spaces and the little bit of light, the low ceilings, no amenities. It was, you know, it was a heavy day.
Right, for sure. And just, you know, just thinking, how many people went through these, against their will. It was just really, really heartening, a really heartening time, and to realize, how far we've come, since these times. But, it's really not that long ago. I mean, it was, probably 150 years ago, not that long ago. So, and on a side note, I mean, we have got a lot of things going on right now with power and authority and how people are treated, and we really have to be conscious and aware that, a lot of people's lives were changed and not for the better because of, a few powerful people at the top. So we really need to be conscious of our voice and our freedoms, and to make sure we try to do anything we can to maintain that for everybody. So, and for me, this really, gave me an, strength, to say, hey, I don't want that to happen again, not just for Black folks, but for everybody. So, okay, next slide. And these are some of the chains that were saved from those times. They had like a little museum on the island too, that you could actually see the leg irons, arm irons. There were engravings of of the island and of those times of slaves, and it was really, really interesting and really really introspective to see that these things were real. This was not a lie. This really did happen to people. Next slide. Are you going to talk about this, Greg?
Yeah, so this was, walking out to, this is the way that you would walk out to the ship. So as you walk through this hallway, you would go out as a slave and be put on the ship to whatever locale they were sending you to. This was, again, a hub where they would disperse the slaves. They would gather them all here and disperse them into different locales. Again, it was a fortress. And so this was a little, you had to hover a little bit. You had to bend down a little bit. It wasn't very large, and it was very scary feeling. Like I said, it was a heavy day. We didn't come back from that like happy or anything. Very introspective.
Yeah. Next slide. Yeah, and this is Greg walking. Now, this was the famed or infamous door of no return. So when you go actually out, to the end, to the doorway, it's just a drop. There's nothing there except for ocean. So this is where the ships would just pull up. They put their gangplanks down, and you just walk right onto the ship. So walking through the, just imagining, how many souls had walked through there was just, like Greg said, it was really, really didn't make you feel good, after leaving there. So, but it was, really, really intense.
Yeah, but glad we went.
Oh yeah, definitely, for sure. Because now we have this with us, forever, and we can share this with, with others, because it's just, this is a story that always needs to be told so we can remember, and, try to make sure we don't go back to this. Because like you said, current events, we can see how easily we can slip.
Yeah.
Next slide. And this is the African Liberation Monument statue, which the Senegal created once to commemorate those who were freed from slavery. So it was a beautiful, beautiful sculpture, beautiful statue. Next slide. This is Dakar. This is just a real quick scene of Dakar, so you can kind of see what it looks like. Very metropolitan. It's the largest city, I think, in Senegal. A lot of very big artist hub as well. They have the Dakar Biennial there. That actually the year we went, but we missed it, so we didn't get to go and see any of it. But yeah, it's a really big, bustling city. Unfortunately, we were there during the holidays, so there really wasn't people there. They were, off for the holiday, but we did get to drive around and see a little bit of it.
Yeah.
Next slide. While we were there, like I said, there really wasn't anybody there, but we did get to stop by an artist collective there, because they have art collectives, around the city. And we actually got to visit a couple of the studios that had artists who were working. But these are some of the sculptures. It might not be easy to see, but these are some of the sculptures that were outside that we did get access to. Next slide. And this is another one of the sculptures that was outside one of the artist buildings there. Next slide. And this is, one of the buildings there, just to kind of just give you a feel of, what it looks like. Next slide. And this is kind of a sunset view of how it looks. Is just beautiful. Just beautiful to go out there in the evening and just listen to the sea. And
this was every night. This was every night.
Right. Every night. It was pretty much like a landscape, like a beautiful painted landscape. Next slide. These are some of the works that I created after the trip. As you can see, I was talking earlier about, bringing together different kind of shapes and pieces, and kind of, making some kind of other vision. So in like diasporal mind, that's, different designs, textures, materials to kind of create, something that looks like an organic thing, but still has, the feel of, an art piece. And then the second piece is African Head. And then there's Scarecrow Man, which, I really used a lot of different materials there to create a scarecrow type figure. And then Chained, which kind of speaks to the idea of slavery and being oppressed and in bondage. So yeah, the different kind of ideas here, I kind of subconsciously, mind to create these newer pieces. So next slide.
And so this is some work that I made after post, Senegal. I guess what you can take from my work is I'm really interested in the Baifal, that Muslim sect that comes out of Senegal, and their patchwork and their fragmentation, and how they take these colors and these fragments and sew them together for clothing and, tapestries. And it's almost quilt-like. And so I like to weave these different types of colors and textures and, add along with some, collage, and kind of, push and pull this space. So that's what I took from Senegal, was more the color and the pattern and the fragmentation of the Baifal.
Okay, next slide. And these are just some inspirational pieces from Senegal. Like Greg said, he's inspired by the Baifal. There's a pair of pants. Those are Greg's pants. And then there's some fabric there. some textiles, and then there's some tile work that was on the tables that were at Sobo Bade, and then there's also a sculpture that was on Goree Island, because they had a lot of artists on Goree Island too who just make works and just put them outside, their studio or their space. So you can, see these little, bits of ideas and ways of, creating that kind of, work their way into our own personal work now. So, okay, next slide. Okay, so that's it. So that's kind of our trip. It was a beautiful experience that I always hold. The people I met and getting to know Falu a little better was really great, and meeting new people, and I hope at some point to go back there and relive that again. And yeah, it was great.
Okay, thank you, Chris and Greg. So we still have a little bit question time. So everyone's feel free to ask questions or write down your questions in the chat area. Any questions? Okay, here's one.
I have a question.
Okay. Hey, Chris. Hey, brother.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, good evening. Amazing presentation. Very honored to know both of you guys. Very blessed and honored. And I guess my question has to do with historic trauma. So as artists, we're very visual. We are very ethereal. When we touch and when we see, it impacts us, right?
Mm-hmm.
That experience you guys talk about, from experiencing the spaces where slaves were kept and where slaves were transported in, and then to have been through the experience that we have been in the last few weeks with the murder of George Floyd, thinking about traumas that rise up in us. Just as you guys were telling the stories about the slave trade, it brought something up in me. And I see Takumbo on here. Hey, T. He talked about PTSD with me just a couple weeks ago. And I'm just really thinking about how my body is reacting to all of this trauma that's brought about on the Black body. Now, I want to know what your experience is to have gone there this year, come back, and then have to have these experiences from COVID to George Floyd, and how are you guys processing through some of all of this?
You want to take that first, Chris, or you want me to take it?
I'll let you take it. I've talked a lot.
All right. I guess when it comes to COVID, the strange thing is that could have been the last trip for a long time. And for it to be to Africa is something really special, because the experience was something of family and friends and togetherness and sharing and light and happiness, and there really was no darkness. And even though it was hard to go to Goree Island that day and to experience that, what we got to come back to was great. Like, we got to come back to Muhammad and a bowl of food and sharing it with our African brothers and sisters that we didn't even know all their names, but we washed our hands together with them and then we ate from the same bowl. So there was a, how can I say, there was a washing over, there was a healing that was involved, even though we had that trip, even though we experienced that trauma. Now, when it comes to the situation now, I'm still processing. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. My PTS is up. I'm 4 blocks away from where they killed George, and so I'm still processing. I'm still trying to figure out how I'm feeling. I guess I'm a little numb, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, I feel the same way. But I think that, you know, I've been doing some work. I've been doing some community work and doing some murals and stuff. And that's kind of helping my healing as well. And as far as the trip goes, for me, I think it's actually comforting to know that, you know, we can overcome this too. You know, I think that's kind of my main ending story. You know, yeah, this is bad. This is bad. I mean, you know, I'm 55 years old now, and this is bad for me up till now. But you know what? I think things will change for the better after this. If anything, we'll get to know each other a little better. And I think that, you know, and seeing the hardship and the process and the history, you know, from going to Africa and seeing, you know, that we, you know, overcame and perhaps made ourselves and the world better because of it. You know, that's the hope that keeps me going and that keeps me creating, you know, being able to tell those stories and to tell, you know, aspirational stories. You got to tell the real stories too and not ignore it, but you got to also tell the stories of aspiration as well. And I like to think I try to do that through my art.
Thank you both. I love the work that you guys came back with. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
you,
brother.
It was a great presentation. You know, showing that actually took care of some of my PTSD because, not only did you show me that, and you see, you know, Goree Island, that's a real strong piece, and that walk, you know, entry of no return. Luckily, we won't have that drop off because of the protesting that's going on now. It sort of kind of has given us a ability to fight and be clear about what we're fighting for, where it was very muggy before, and to see your artwork and how you're approaching and how you're looking at it. A lot of times what we call abstract art is part of diaspora. So we're just creating things out of our soul. And so I appreciate you guys showing me how you approached it and touched it, reminded me of my trips to Ghana with a similar kind of thing. And just right on for being able to present it so well. It was, you know, it's just beautiful.
Thank you.
Thanks, Takumba. Thanks a lot. Well, thanks for showing up. I really, really appreciate that.
Oh, definitely. I was watching. I just didn't put the video on until last. So it's like, you know, I don't need to see myself.
I have a question if there's still time.
Oh, yeah.
First off, hi, Gregory. It's great to see your face again.
Hey, Cameron, how you doing?
I'm doing all right out here. Gregory was one of my first art professors when I was starting out, and now I'm out in Philadelphia, in Pennsylvania, where he is from. But I wrote it in the chat as well, but I'm just wondering about like community and what community and communication needs to be right now. Like thinking about myself being dislocated from Minnesota and like seeing what was going on and like not wanting to see it through the news because that's so much a part of traumatizing like Black people on top of our death. But trying to figure out what was my community here and in Minnesota and how to communicate with those people and just what it means as an artist and how can we elevate that communication.
Yeah, well, I would just say keep doing work that's real. You know what I'm saying? Just keep doing work from the heart, you know, and whether it's, you know, in your face or, you know, belligerent, or, you know, it's something more of healing or calm, just do honest, real work, you know, because that'll speak to someone, you know.
Yeah, and then I would say, Cameron, let it be seen. Right now, I think a lot of folks are holding in, myself included, a lot of things that we need to be sharing and we need to let out and we need to give context and give an arena for. So let it be seen. You know, figure that part out. Like, what arena does it need to be in? What context, what audience, and go for it.
Thank you. That's really good advice.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, everyone. So here we have a good question from the chat area, which is also good to end today's event. So can you talk about the next residency?
Yeah, so the next residency hopefully will be here in Minneapolis.
Right. Yeah. I think it was actually supposed to be this year.
2021.
Yeah, but it's gonna be 2021 now. So Gap, some of the Gap collective artists, well, you know, be shipping their work here and hopefully be able to show up and have a show at SooVAC. So
that's the plan. It's
that's
2021.
Yeah.
I don't know when yet, but it will be in 2021. Hopefully not here on Zoom, but we want it here at SooVAC. So that's hopefully the plan, or it is right now.
I know.
Thank you too. Thank you all. And Carl, hi, nice to meet you. Yeah, in person.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to thank SooVAC for giving Gregory and I the chance to share about our experience, and you know, and also, you know, to just, you know, hear about history, because it's our history now, but we're hoping that it's your history too, you know, and you know, in these trying times, you know, we're all one people. You know, we're all one people. We just always have to just keep remembering that. It's hard because there's so many things and we can be so isolated, you know, but we got to realize we're all one people, and we're all, you know, we always have to remember that, you know, if you heard, I heard, you know what I'm saying?
Yep. Here. And thank you, Carolyn. Thank you, SooVAC. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Hey.
Thank you. So good.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, SooVAC.
And stay safe and
Thank
watch your
you.
Yep, thank you.
This will be up on our website in a couple days, so you can share it. People can watch it after. We'll send it out. Thank you, Greg. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Thank you, and thank you, Ija.
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks,
Absolutely.
Ija.
Yeah. She did this. Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Yeah. Everybody have a good rest of the week.
Yeah, be good, everyone.
Thank you.